Welcome to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, here to share some amazing conversations. We're talking business, health, making and saving money, or starting something epic. Think of this as your go-to spot for stories that do a lot more than just kill time. They spark ideas, give you a boost, and perhaps even change the way you look at the world. I'm pulling in the experts, the thinkers, the doers, and the dreamers. We're about to dive into stories that open doors and ideas that light up your brain. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my guest, Michelle Galoob. How are you today, Michelle?
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for joining us. I am thrilled to have you on the show. I shared before we started that I'm so excited about this conversation. I think it's going to be incredibly fascinating. And just to share with the listeners a little bit about you, Michelle, you are an intuitive guide, you're a coach, you are a spiritual mentor, you help empower individuals to heal from past traumas. You help us learn about trusting our intuition and also embrace our higher selves. And we're going to be talking about spiritual guidance and intuition and anxiety and something else that I think is really interesting, and that's Akashic Records. And so again, Michelle, welcome. Would you share with us how this journey happened for you? What led you down this path? And take it away.
Okay, amazing. So I was at a time in my life that everything just felt really stuck. Everything. My work, I was in a 9 to 5. I knew that I was here for something more than that. And I was stuck in the motions of going to work and coming home and getting a paycheck. And I felt very unfulfilled in my life. And I knew that I was here for something more. So there was that going on and a lot of other challenges financially. I just had a miscarriage. Like so many things were happening that it just felt like I was burdened with a lot, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to navigate. I really was looking for answers. So I begged the universe for help. And it was the first time I did, because I'm a Capricorn, like you. Okay. And it was really hard for me to go there, to do that, to even think that there was something beyond, the people that I knew that were in my reach to get help. So I begged the universe for help. I was like, I'm at my rock bottom. I don't know what to do. I'm so frustrated. Please help me. Like, I'm open. And I was the most open I'd ever been in my life. Because prior to that, I would try to handle life on my own. So I begged the universe for help, and I received guidance from my spiritual teacher who had passed away a couple months earlier, who appeared in my bedroom, and I was seeing him as clearly as I'm seeing you right now. And he basically gave me all the clarity that I was looking for. And he talked me through step by step. If you do this, then this will happen. And I got all the clarity I needed. It felt like an hour, but really it was probably 10 minutes. And I felt so comforted, and I felt so safe. And I felt like I could handle life. I was like, oh, I know what to do next. And so obviously that experience was so magical that I wanted it to happen again. And I begged for it to happen again. It did happen one more time. And then I was like, okay, this can't just be like whenever I'm desperate. I want to be able to access this knowledge, or guidance when in my everyday actions, whether it's I need the right words to speak to somebody on the phone or whatever it was. So I started to talk to my spirit guides after that. And I started to receive voices. I hear voices in my left ear and receive guidance. And I didn't know at the time what it was. I thought that I was thinking a lot of things. I thought it was my thoughts. And I realized that something was a little off. I started to know things about people. These voices wouldn't turn off. I didn't know what to do with it. And then eventually met a healer through my husband, who was asking for healing for his brother. Okay. And that healer was talking to him on the phone. I got into the car with him, and I hear her, and she says, who's that girl who just walked into the car? Like, who got into the car with big brown eyes?" And, I was like, "What?" And she basically says, "Do you know that your third eye is totally open?" And I was like, "I don't know," but in my mind, I'm like, "I'm hearing voices lately, and I know things about people. Maybe she's right. I don't know." I mean, it wasn't the world that I was living in, right? That world. So she's like, "I have to meet you. I have to meet you. I'm coming to LA next week." She was in Argentina. So she says, "I'm coming to LA and I have to meet you and that's it." And I'm like, "Sure." So I told my husband at the time, I said, "Oh my God, this woman's going to teach me what I know. She's going to teach me how to do this." And so I meet her the following week. I met her at a coffee shop. She looks like me. So I thought it was crazy. I was like, "Okay, you look like me. What is this?" She starts crying and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I finally met you. My guides told me that I needed to come to LA to meet somebody, and I know that person is you. And I'm here to teach you everything I know." So I was like, okay, I was open, but I didn't even know what that meant. I just wanted those voices to be switched off, to turn off, because I wasn't comfortable with what I was hearing, because it really did feel like I was schizophrenic. I didn't realize I was like, too much thinking here going on. And so but I was open. I said, okay. And she basically threw me in it like Mr. Miyagi style. She would ask me questions about people and she would say, "Okay, tell me about this person." And then don't, enough with your ego, just share what comes to you. And I would just practice with her. And basically that's how my whole journey started. I wasn't doing readings then. It wasn't something that I thought of doing. I literally just wanted to learn how to manage the voices that I was hearing. And then, after that, I started my own process of asking my guides for answers. And then it all kind of happened after that.
My gosh, Michelle, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that portion of your journey with us. And I think for myself, a lot of what you're sharing is not something that we typically are used to dealing with on an everyday basis, right? I mean, most of us are using our brains, trying to think logically, what we see, what we can feel, what we can hear, nothing really outside of those quote unquote normal things. But our intuition and this guidance is really also a part of who we are. And we can tap into that knowledge and the things that we feel and understand about things that are different than that I can see it, I can hear it, I can feel it sort of stuff, right? So it
Right.
sounds a little bit like that was beginning to happen for you, hearing some of these voices as guides coming to you to share information. I think it's so incredibly fascinating. And, so thank you for sharing that part of your journey. I want to talk a little bit more about that because you mentioned in there about ego and let your ego get out of the way. And so let's talk about intuition and ego and how a lot of times we just discount what we're thinking because we just don't believe it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, how many times have we done that? Like so many times. So here's the thing. When we receive intuitive downloads, that's what I like to call them, they come in pure form. And as soon as our brains get involved and try to make logic out of anything that we've received, you've basically thrown that guidance out the window and you've made it your own. And it's now tainted. So it's no longer an intuitive hit. It's now, oh, this is what I think. Okay. So something that I would always recommend is that when you receive an intuitive hit, write it down. Don't overanalyze it. Don't put your spin on it. Because when we do that, you're missing the point. You've made it now your own. It's not coming from the divine anymore. And another way to differentiate between the two is to give your ego a name. So that's what I did. I named my ego Gertrude is my ego's name. Okay, so I named my ego in order for me to really tell the difference. Now, Gertrude makes assumptions. She assumes things about people. She puts her logical mind into the equation. Okay, so once I recognize when Gertrude is coming into play, I know that now I've skewed the information. So I always want to connect to the higher version of myself. That part of us that does know. We know the truth. The information just dropped in. It dropped in a pure way. I know that it's true, and I go with that. And so I always write it down. I write down what I get. I write down my downloads, and I'll look at it later when I'm not attached to any outcome. I'm not trying to figure it out. Oh, I wonder what that means. Could it mean this? Could it mean that guy's my soulmate? No, I put it aside and I ask for guidance over and over again. And I'll say, you showed me this. What does that mean? Because I always want it to come from our guides. I don't want it to come from my brain.
God, that's a great tip right there. Writing down these things that come to you and you're not even really sure where they came from, but just write it down as exact as you can before that logical part of your brain tries to make it make sense in relation to this everyday world, right? And I love the idea of naming your ego so that you can kind of see that, point of difference between the
Right.
two. So great suggestions there.
I mean, there's actually another thing that you could do. When you're talking to somebody, if I were to tell you, Desiree, tell me what color my top is today, you'd be looking straight at me and you'd be like, it's black. Okay. But if I would ask you the question, like, what do you think I need to work on in my life? Like, change spiritually? What are the things that I need to work on? You most likely would look away. All right. Because you're receiving that information. Intuition is received, it isn't thought of. Right. So another tip would be to pay attention. Are you looking away to receive, or are you looking straight at somebody? Is that most likely from your brain?
Okay. And so that's an interesting point because when I think about, looking away to think about something, that's what comes to mind is I'm looking away to think about something, but you're suggesting that we might be looking away to receive information.
Yes.
So interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's something good that all of us can consider is what's happening here when we do that. Yeah. So good tips. What's a good way that we can stay grounded so that we can receive these communications that are coming to us, these downloads, as you suggested, so that it's helpful for us in times when we need it, whether it's challenging time, in whatever respect. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I would really recommend some sort of breath work exercise. And when you're having those anxious moments and your heart is pitter-pattering and you don't know what to do, that's what I always do is I'll take a moment outside of my, my to-do list. And I will take a good 10 minutes and just work on my breath so that I can feel kind of centered and grounded. Okay, so that's the first thing. I also would recommend finding an activity that makes you feel zen, makes you feel like, okay, I'm not thinking about everything that I have to do today. It could be washing the dishes, it could be doing the laundry, it could be, making all the beds in the house, sweeping the floor. I found myself cleaning and getting the best ideas. I'm like, oh yes, download. So taking a long shower, don't feel like you have to get out of the shower. Just you're finding your ways to ground yourself so that you're able to be a receiver of this information. You're basically tuning in your radio station to the right station. So the more we ground ourselves and find that center and find our zen, and we're stepping out of all the things that we need to do, especially us women, that we're juggling so many different things like, oh, I've got to make dinner for the kids and I've got to, pick up the laundry. and I have all this work to do. You know, we're juggling so many things that it's hard to clear the mind and be able to even be in that place of receiving guidance. So that's the number one thing really, is to set time aside, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to do something that you know that your brain's not going to get involved. And then you're ready. You're ready. You're like tuned in to the right station, and your guides will be able to speak to you then. So that's the first thing. Second thing is to know how you've already been spoken to. We all get our intuitive hits in some way or another. I was hearing voices. I also see images in my mind's eye. I know a lot of people, like, information just drops in. They're like, I just know. I just know. My husband, for example, he gets like a sinking feeling in his belly when something doesn't feel right, or like this uplifting, exciting feeling when things are, on the right track. So that's another thing I would recommend, is to know how we're receiving our guidance. Really, like, pay attention. Oh, I got this message to turn off the oven. Okay, how did that come to you? Did you see the oven, or did you hear the words, turn off the oven? Or, yeah, it's really a matter of quieting the noise around us and tuning in.
Thank you, Michelle. Those are great suggestions for sure. And I think all of us can relate in some way to your examples of being in the shower and your mind is not really paying attention to too much because you've done this 1,000 times, you've washed your hair before 1,000 times. You're not thinking, right? Your brain is not actively thinking about things. And so then these ideas or thoughts come to you, and I know I'm not the only one who's been in that, or washing the dishes and these kind of almost mindless, right, activities that
Yeah,
allow us to be open.
100%.
Yeah.
So, if you have a big decision to make and you really don't know what to do, again, I would write it down. Okay, I have a big decision. And then I would ask my guides to come in and say, okay, help me make this decision. Help me. Help show me the right thing to do. Let it go. Then when you're doing your mindless activities, I'm telling you, it will come to you and you're like, oh, I never even thought of that. Like, I I didn't even think of that. Oh my God, that's genius. And a lot of times we think that we are thinking these things, but it's actually coming to us like in a flash. So when we let go of our attachment and our need to know, what to do, let's step away from the how and let our guides show us the how and the what. All we need to do is, put the question out there.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. We try to control every aspect of everything that we're doing because we think that we have to. Like, that's the
Yes.
only way it's going to get done is if we're controlling it and making these things happen. But that's not really true. We don't need to be in control of everything that's happening for things to just happen and in the way that they should. And so I
Right.
love this idea of writing it down, whatever the big issue is that you're having, whatever challenge it is. Like, I don't know how to solve this problem. Help me. Right. And then allow.
Yeah, I mean, I use it all the time myself, okay? And it's harder when it comes to ourselves because we're involved. There are ways around it. My daughter was at school, and school is starting for the year, and she literally had a meltdown because she was like, you can't send me to school. You can't send me to school. So my logical mom self is like, well, toughen up. You just go. School started. Like, you're on a schedule. You can't skip school. You have to go to school. Okay, so that's what I usually would have done. But I brought in my guides at that point. I said, something is up. Clearly something's up. I'm not sure what it is. I am not sure what to do. Do I send her to school and let her suffer? Or is she exaggerating? Do I find her a new school, which is last minute right now? Or do I homeschool her? Because my oldest was being homeschooled. So, these are my options. Or is there something else that I haven't even thought of? Okay, so my logical self would try to figure it all out. Oh, I better call the schools and find out and see what's best for her. And I would make my decision purely based on my knowledge, what I've researched. Okay, so what I did is I did my research, but I let it go. And I said, listen, I'm really not sure. These are the pros and cons for new school. These are the pros and cons for her staying at that school. These are the pros and cons of homeschool. And I said, I don't know at this point. And that's the beauty. You have to just say, I don't know. I don't have the answers. And I let my guides show me. I asked them, I said, please, I've done my research. Here you go. I'm handing it over. And so I handed it over and I asked for a sign. And one of my cons of homeschool was that I had to buy a new piece of furniture for the bedroom. And I wasn't, it's not a big deal, but I didn't, it was just a pain in the butt for me. I was like, I don't feel like this. Like, and now I'm going to have to figure out what kind of furniture, blah, blah, blah. Literally like a week into school starting, my neighbor's moving out. And I see this beautiful brand new Pottery Barn desk that was white that matched all the furniture right outside. And he was there and lugging it out. I said, what are you doing with this? He said, it's the only thing that didn't sell. We've sold everything in our apartment and this is it. Do you want it? Do I want it? Yes. Not only do I want it, but there's my answer. So it's about being in the flow and letting, not being so rigid, letting the universe show us. It was totally against the grain for me personally, but if I could do it, anybody can, honestly.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Michelle. I think that's amazing. And what an example of letting it go and having the answer be revealed to you in this. I mean, like, who knew? What are the odds that this would happen with the neighbor not being able to get rid of this desk? It's not about odds, right? There was a plan
Yeah.
and this all came together like a puzzle piece. And so I think it's so interesting when we look at it this way, we don't have to figure it all out. There's stuff working on our behalf
Right.
to make everything come together the way it needs to be, right?
Yeah, there's a master plan. We always think we have a better plan, but the universe has a better plan for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some exercises maybe or tools that we can use that can help us begin to develop this intuitive guidance gift way that we can receive information.
Okay. So first of all, is to know that your spirit guides, that you have spirit guides, that they're there with you. Okay. Just knowing that's the first step. The second thing that I would do is start the dialogue. Okay. That would mean, practically speaking, because we're practical people, actually saying, guides, please help me. I need your help. If you don't ask for help, you're not going to get any help. So that's the second thing. The third thing, and what I did, and this was like the start of my journey, was I just started with simple yes and no answers. I wanted to ask my guides for yes and no questions, okay? And what I started with was asking them questions that I already knew the answers to so that I could understand how I was receiving a yes and how I was receiving a no. So I would ask the guides, is my name Michelle? Show me a yes or show me a no. So you could either do it, ask your guides just to show you what a yes looks like or feels like, or what a no looks like or feels like, or you could ask them for something specific. You could say, if you're a visual person, which I am, I would close my eyes and I would say, show me a red traffic light for no and a green traffic light for yes. And if you're a visual person, it would be a very easy thing to do. So should I go to this party or not? Is it in my highest good? Show me the answer and you'll see a green or a red. And that is the most simple way that I can share with you of how to start this dialogue. Then you can obviously ask other questions, but always to remember to ask, is it in my highest good? Is it in the highest good of my daughter to be homeschooled? Is it in my highest good to do this, that, and the other? And you want to leave it open. And you can keep asking the yes and no questions until you get clearer, clearer on your answers. Yeah, and there's so many different ways of receiving the guidance. So, like I said before, you've got to know what works for you, because intuition is a language that's personal to you. When I'm getting yes and no answers, I'll see a red stop sign for no, and I might see an apple for yes. It doesn't mean that that's how you're going to see it. So you've got to like learn what your intuitive language already looks like, because we all have intuitions, not just me. We just got to know how we already feel it. When you've had those hits before, those like not so great feelings, where do you feel it in your body? We receive our intuition in our bodies. It's not in our mind. So just to pay attention to how it is you're actually receiving that. And start the dialogue. Again, I tell everybody to get like an intuitive journal and write it all down. Like, today I saw a red stop sign. I then asked my guides if that meant a no. Yes, it meant a no. Okay, write it down. That's how your guides are going to talk to you. When I first started doing readings, or even at the beginning of my journey, it would take me a long time to get my yes and a long time to get my no. And now it's like there's a fluency there. I get it in a second, because I'll show you the same things over and over and over again, So it's a muscle that we can build. So I really would recommend first steps is practice your yes and no's. And don't second guess. It's always the first thing that comes to you.
Yeah, great reminder. And thank you, Michelle, for detailing that, steps that we can take and kind of skills that we can begin to develop to help us with this. And also the point that you made about, is this for my highest good and with the highest good of everyone involved, right? Because that's important. And something I want to ask you about, because there's probably listeners who are like, do I trust who I'm asking? Who's going to be answering? And do I even know that there's really anybody there? And, what do you have to say to somebody who's questioning that? Like, who's answering? And are they looking out for my good?
That's a great question. So the spirit guides are loved ones, angels, ascended masters. There's a whole group of people up there who want to help us. Okay, so the way I always like to explain what the spirit guides are, they're like waiters in a restaurant. If you go to a restaurant and the waiters are there, imagine you have two waiters, and they're like, hey, what can I get you? You're not going to say, well, no, don't worry, I don't need anything, but you're at the restaurant. So your guides are like waiters. Their role is to help you. Their role is to serve. So a lot of us, especially as women who are so super capable of doing so many different things, we're like, no, it's okay, I'll do it myself. It's okay, I don't want to burden you. This whole idea of burdening our guides is like, it's crazy. The point is we have these celestial helpers up there, and they want what's best for us. So you're not connecting to like low vibration souls. You are connecting to those who are vibrating high, which is why it's really important to get yourself into the vibration to receive guidance from those souls that are high vibration. Because you don't want to be asking questions like, is this my future boyfriend or not? It's kind of, it's not in your highest good to ask that kind of question. So you could ask a question like, is it in my highest good to be open to this relationship, or is there someone better for me? Be open. It's the whole idea of being open. Yeah, so we do have our spirit guides. We just need to trust they're there. And we ask to connect to the highest of souls. And I guarantee you that they'll be answering for your highest good, because they want what's best for you.
I love that. Thank you. And that the way you described that you're at a restaurant and these are these waiters who are here to help you. I mean, what a way to visualize this. It's not any way I had ever thought about it before. So I'm sure the listeners too are just like, oh wow, okay, that's a good one.
Like you wouldn't tell a waiter, I don't want anything. You've just come to the restaurant.
Yeah. No, let me go to the kitchen and I'll get it myself. I'll cook up the food. Yeah. Great visualization there. I love it. So thank you for that. Okay. Can we talk now about Akashic Records? And for the listeners who don't have any idea what that means, would you explain it and then tell us kind of what the point is of them and how it can help the person listening or anyone to kind of remove things that are in their way or blockages?
Yeah. So the Akashic Records is like a Google search for your soul. It's all your soul's past, present, future thoughts, actions, everything is all stored in this what I like to call like the iCloud. It's there for you to access. Okay. And in this cloud, each one of us has our own file. Okay. And in that file, you are able to see like repetitive patterns that may be happening in your life. Why a certain relationship is not working out for you, relationships generally, actually, and to see what you need to do to unblock those obstacles in your life. So it's not for the purpose of being nosy and trying to find out information and being psychic. It's not a psychic realm, so to speak. It is more a realm where you can break through the blockages that you have because you're getting all the tools and the answers to do that. So to access your record, you need your full legal name. That's kind of the key to unlock the records. If you're looking at it like it's like the password in the phone. So it's your full legal name that unlocks those records, where somebody who can read your records, or you can learn how to open your own records yourself, can unlock and see what needs to be worked on in this lifetime. You can also see past lives and why certain things are happening in your life in a cyclical pattern, like, why do I always have these money issues? Why do I always have these relationship issues? It's all in this cloud.
Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that. And again, another great way to visualize something that's like this idea that many people don't understand. It's the cloud, and you're looking at sort of almost like file drawers. You're pulling out file drawers of information, right?
Yeah.
And seeing how these things that maybe occurred in your past lives are occurring now. And if you're like, why does this keep happening to me? Or feels like it keeps happening to me, this is sort of like helps explain that. So you can then make any changes, right? And then
Right.
move forward. So what is it about the legal name? And I don't know if we want to get too much in the weeds,
So
but
even if your name is, let's say your name is Joseph, but you go by Joe. Well, this is probably not the forum for a Joe, but okay. So your name is Julie, and you go by Jules. Okay, Julie, and you go by Jules, and your legal name is Julie. It doesn't matter that your nickname is Jules, because Jules isn't going to open that record. The name Julie and your last name and your middle name is going to open the records for you. It's just very specific. It's like putting in the right phone number in your phone. That's what's needed, even if that's not the name that you use generally. Yeah.
okay. Got it. I think it's so interesting, this idea of finding this information out in this way. So I just trying to kind of get a little bit more of an understanding. And so that was my question about the name, because also if you're thinking, what if I got married? Do I need my birth name? Does it have to be, you know what I mean? So like, does any of that matter?
So if you got married and you changed your name legally, that would be your name that you use to unlock the record. So no, you're not using any old name. It's whatever your name is officially is the passcode to enter.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that. Again, I just think it's So interesting. And I want to make sure that the listeners kind of are following along and understanding how this works. So thank you for that. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to share on Akashic Records and what maybe the listeners need to know about it?
Well, the thing that I want to stress is that it's not a place to be nosy about anybody else. But, you're not being nosy about yourself. You're not being nosy about another person. It's your records. Okay. Your records. You don't want to be like, oh, is that guy dating this girl like secretly behind my back? Is he having an affair? That's not the idea of the records. So it's really a pure place where you're just working on yourself, because that's the only person you can work on. If you're in a relationship, you're not going to change anyone else. You can just have to change yourself. So it's a really an all loving place with no judgment, where you are shown maybe your downfalls or the things that you need to work on, not to feel heavy about it, to be like, oh, look, I just need to do this, and I'm going to open up abundance in my life. I'm going to open up relationships in my life. I'm going to open up all areas in my life that have felt blocked up until now. So it's a beautiful way to grow spiritually, to evolve, so that you can bring in the magic in your life that you've always wanted. It's like, you want to bring in magic, you want to bring in flow, and being able to open up your records and see that you are creating that flow. You are creating like synchronicities. You're unblocking things in your life. Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing tool, really, to get to the next level.
Yeah.
Unstick
Excellent.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, so thank you again for sharing more detail on that. It's, I think, super helpful for all of us to understand, what the point is. And again, it's we want to be working on ourselves to be our highest, best version of ourselves, right?
Right.
Yeah, good stuff. Can you share with us your thoughts on how spirituality can help with anxiety, anxious thoughts, maybe help us provide clarity in our everyday life?
Yeah. So anxiety is the fear of the unknown. It's what you don't know that's making you feel anxious. Or it's like, everything feels too much because it's not in your control. You can't handle it. When you are tapped into that higher version of yourself, that part of you that does know, that where the veils are removed, when you're tapped into your intuition and you're like, you know what? I know I have clarity right now. You will no longer have anxiety. You'll be, I was that person I had so much anxiety. I felt like I didn't have the answers to anything. Okay. So once I got the clarity, it was like I had the knowing after my encounter with my spiritual mentor. I got this knowing inside, like, okay, I know what to do. That turned everything around. I was like so secure about who I was, where I was going, what I was doing, my purpose. I felt like totally tapped into me, the highest level, not me with my baggage. Yeah, it's really, I forgot the question. You know what I'm saying?
It's about spirituality and how that can help us to relieve that anxiety. And
Yes.
you're getting there for sure. And again, it's like letting go of trying to control every aspect of everything because we're unsure about a situation or how something's going to evolve.
Right.
Letting go of that and trusting.
Yeah, it's really about creating this trust in the universe, about knowing that you are not alone. You don't need to, even if you haven't had a vision of anyone, a loved one that has passed away, that doesn't even matter. It's about knowing that you are not alone to deal with all your issues. It's about creating dialogue with your guides so that you can navigate life in such a beautiful, beautiful way with no anxiety, no fear, clear on your decisions. Do I do this or do I do that? Oh my God, I don't know. Because a lot of us like spin with our decision processes. We're like hamsters in a wheel going round and round and round and round with like no destination. So I feel like when we are open to this world of spirituality and the spirit guidance, this is when it's like you've brought in your best friends who have your back, who want the best for you, who can help you in everything that you do. What's better than that?
Yeah.
You're not alone, really.
Mm. Yeah. Good stuff, Michelle. Thank you for that. Really, that is a great reminder that we are not alone and we're not going through this by ourselves, and we can trust our intuition and we can trust the guidance if we give ourselves the space to get there, right? To just be open to.
Yeah.
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 Love it. Okay. And so for people who are really skeptical about all of this stuff that we're talking about, what do you have to say? What are your thoughts on how people can begin to, I guess, relieve some of that skepticism?
Well, you have to try it. Even if you're skeptical, you have to put it to the test. Like, I was such a skeptic. I saw evidence. Okay. I'm Capricorn. I needed evidence. Show me proof that something beyond this life exists. So if you are a skeptic, put it to the test. Ask your spirit guides to show you a sign, but pay attention to it. Don't be like all in your head and ego, and you're not going to let any guidance in if you're not open. There has to be a level of openness. So be open to seeing if there's something out there or not. But I can tell you that there is, coming from somebody who is very, very skeptical. I was
Yeah.
spiritual, but I didn't believe that I would be able to hear my guides or have any sort of connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Michelle. Really, I think myself as well, grew up very spiritual, but never really thinking like this is something that I could tap into. This idea of all of that you're sharing with spirit guides and these, kind of conversations. So for me, this is helpful information, and I'm sure for the listeners as well. Try it and see if it, makes that questioning, skeptical part of you go, okay, maybe there is something here.
You have nothing to lose,
Yeah.
but everything to gain.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. So I think at this point, if there's any last words that you want to share with the person who's listening that you maybe haven't shared so far, what would you like to say?
I would like to share that it's like you're not alone. Really, that's I think the biggest thing to know, that you are supported. You have support, you have guidance. You don't need to figure your life out. Just step away, get out of the driver's seat, sit in the back, and hand over your issues, your problems, your burdens to your guides. Yes, you can handle it. We all know you can handle it, but you don't need to handle it. We don't need to exhaust ourselves from trying to figure everything out. We don't need to have that pressure on us. So hand it over. Hand it over. Do your effort. Handing it over doesn't mean sitting on a mountain and just waiting for things to happen. You've got to do your part. So if it's researching whether to do A, B, or C, do your research. Have an idea, and then let it go. Let it go. Let the universe take over at that point. And know that you are not burdening your guides or your loved ones with a question, or you're not burdening them by asking them for help. We've got to ask for help. You've got to ask for help. We're great and we can handle so much, but you don't have to. And so if you want to have energy at the end of the day and feel complete, this is what's needed. Because otherwise we're draining ourselves. We're trying to do it all. And that's not what we're here for.
What a beautiful reminder. Yeah. Thank you for that, Michelle. I love it. Good stuff. Okay. So would you share any books or podcasts that you think that the listeners should check out that have been helpful or beneficial, that you really think that they need to listen to or read?
Yeah. So one of my favorite books was Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. And another one of his books was Only Love is Real. And it was such an incredible book. But Brian Weiss talks about past lives and reincarnation, and it's read it. I don't even want to ruin it. No, I'm not ruining it for you. Okay. Read those books. Amazing. It'll open up your minds to, again, to the world beyond. Okay. And an amazing podcast I would recommend is the Michelle Chalfant Show. I love her. She has great energy. And I know you'll love all her guests that she has on there.
Excellent. Well, very, very good recommendations for us for sure. A couple of books that have not been suggested before and the podcast as well. So I encourage the listeners to check it out. The details will be in the show notes. I know I'm going to be looking into it because I think it's so incredibly fascinating and I want to learn more. So I encourage you to do the same. Michelle, would you share how the listeners can find you if they want to see the work that you're doing? Just are you on social media, your website? If they have questions for you, how would they be able to reach you?
Yeah.
Please share that.
I'm on Instagram and my handle's at Michelle Galoob. My website also is michellegaloob.com. And I also have an intuitive mastery community on School, which is skool.com, not school where you're used to. And yeah, so I'm on there and I have some free resources on there. So yeah, that's where you find me.
Excellent. I will detail all of that also in the show notes so listeners can easily find it because I think that resource sounds incredible. And, follow along with what Michelle's doing because I think it's tremendous. And if you have questions, reach out to her. So thank you again, Michelle, for coming on the show and sharing all of this information with us. I think it has been phenomenal and I have truly enjoyed it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I loved it.
Well,
Love being here.
Thank you. We'll talk more soon. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explore fascinating topics together. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to join us next week for another amazing episode. Remember, your journey of learning and growth is a continuous adventure, and we're thrilled to be part of it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next week, stay curious and keep exploring those pockets of knowledge.